From the studios of TvGrace International, here are the ineffable words of God. The gospel of grace on the lips of the man Christ Jesus. Abba, Father.
Well, Hebrews chapter 5. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 14. This is today's theme, senses exercised. Senses in exercise. It says here, but solid food. Say solid food. It is for those who have reached maturity. That is, those who, by reason of use, have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Say, inside the church. Yes, because to discern evil in the world, in the street, anyone can discern that, look, that is bad. But here inside, discern evil within the church. How do you know what is bad and what is good? So, solid food. It is necessary that you have exercised your senses. Your senses get some exercise within the Christian convictions, so that you may not be a Christian where every wind of doctrine carries you, because I have seen people who learn grace quickly. However, they have such weak senses that any wind, any comment, any argument, at the moment someone said something and they are immediately scandalized, you know? As they do not have. It seems that he learned the mysteries in the letter. He learned the same thing that you learned. Look, yes, this is so, this is not done. You do not baptize, you do not do this, you do not anoint with oil, you do not fast, you do not watch, you do not offend Christ with those works of the flesh. But then any commentary, any wind of doctrine envelops him, and you never see him again. We don't see him under that coverage. We see him adrift. In grace, speaking grace, but adrift. We do not see him in the unity of the Spirit. And the reason for that, the reason why the apostle talks about that is because of verse 11. Let's go to the verse. Look what it says. Concerning this there is much to say, and hard to explain, since you have become dull of hearing. For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the rudiments of the first principles of God, and are become such as have need of milk, and not of solid food. For everyone who partakes only of milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, for he is an infant. But solid food belongs to those who are of full age, that is, those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. And notice if it is so that the next verse of chapter 6 then tells you how you should exercise your senses, and when you demonstrate that you have maturity, when you proceed as follows. Look at what verse 1 of chapter 6 says. Therefore, that is, if you are mature. Therefore, leaving the discussion of the elementary principles of Christ, let us go on to perfection, not laying again the foundation of repentance from dead works and of faith toward God. Exercise, the exercise of the senses, is very important. Very important. I was just commenting that this week I have seen that I have a lot of people around the church who watch, play my cassettes, but they have no discernment. Anyone comes along, they talk and entangle others. And I have learned the word that way for many years. But they get easily entangled. Someone comes along and tells them, look, be careful with the apostolate. At the moment someone says to them, look, they're idolizing him too much, things like that, their senses are not exercised. The senses are not exercised. You have to exercise your senses to know what is good and what is evil. You have to understand what is right and what is wrong, what is harmful and what is not harmful. In other words, that you clearly know that, so that you may have a clear conscience, and so that you can maintain a good testimony and stand firm in your way of thinking. But that happens if you have your senses exercised. Of course, for that, you can't be in a religion where you grow inside a square. There are people who get into a square like that, and they get squared and they don't get out of it. And you can't talk to them because they're so limited that don't get out of there. But we have said that we grow in a spiral. There is always room to mature and to see things with a sense of more maturity. The sense is when you have exercised them, nothing disturbs you, because as they are exercised, you discern at once. And evil, you also discern it quickly. When someone brings you something in the name of grace, you say, this has nothing to do with the covenant, is outside the covenant of grace. That is a semi-grace, not grace at all. Well, you have to have your senses exercised. You have to be aware of your behavior. When the body is drifting, this is not right, I am behaving badly. Because you are, whether it's against you or for you, you have your senses exercised. Whether it's to get your attention or to draw attention to yourself, but you have your senses awake. You are well alert. In fact, you are imprisoned because you are so alert. You are imprisoned to this word. Imagine when you have your senses exercised, that if someone asks you, are you going to pray? You answer him, I am a prayer, I don't have to pray. When you have your senses exercised, you are not going to take a certain time for that because you are not praying all the time. Don't you see that you have your senses exercised? And those senses are like two parabolics like this. Even when you are sleeping, you are with the satellite dishes like this. That's why they accuse us. Look, they don't pray there. They do not have a prayer service during the week. What they have is a service to continue learning the Word. Hey, but they don't pray. The Word itself leads you to that. Because there are people who say they have a prayer service. But brother, when you have exercised your senses. Listen, if someone calls you and tells you that someone has passed away, even so, if you have your senses exercised, in other words, when you encounter such news, you should not panic and cry helplessly because your senses are exercised. I must admit, there are individuals who do react in this manner upon receiving such information. But when you have exercised your senses, you don't react in a crazy way. Your tongue does not go out before you. You have your tongue grabbed. Hey! The tongue asks for permission because you put a guard on your mouth. You say, I have put a guard on my mouth. And then your mouth asks for permission. Just a moment, let me scrutinize this. Hey, it's good to have your senses exercised, isn't it? Before you were so quick to answer that fights would break out instantly. And then you had to be apologizing because you didn't want to talk that way. Because you didn't have your senses exercised. The tongue said what it wanted. You had her like a ship drifting. Wouldn't you agree that problems in marriage often stem from similar circumstances? Take, for instance, a majority of troubled marriages here. Haven't they typically originated in this manner? A poorly expressed word out of order, and you're troubling half the world, and at the moment. Look, the Lord needs you to have your senses exercised. For everything. Look, if work is over tomorrow, well, he's over here. But it doesn't mean that I won't find another one elsewhere. It was over for a moment. For 30 seconds, that's 30 days. However, I tell you, it suits you. Because it is not convenient for you to bend, to curse, to go into depression. You can rule the situation and make the angels act. Do not delay the work of the angels. That is, you cannot be afraid of bad news from death on down. There has to be a government in you, in your personality. Get this, for your family to make a difference. That's where it shows. It's not like you're going to criticize them for 20 doctrinal errors. You can commit those too, but when they see you going through a difficult time, let them see a government. Hey, look how so-and-so is doing, isn't he? When you call on the phone, Hello, look, put so-and-so on. You say, just a moment, good afternoon, how are you? Pass me so-and-so, please, even if I am troubled. Sometimes I find myself needing to draw someone's attention to an issue, but it's important to approach it calmly. Firstly, I inquire about their well-being, the children, and their spouse. I make sure everything is all right. Only then do I discuss the matter with them. Look, I wanted to tell you about a situation, then you embellish the issue, but you're not going to come in with another attitude and say, look, you're wrong. Hey, whether you trust him or not, whether he is your son or not, you have to respect God. You have to respect the angels. Those are senses with exercise. Let's go to the Old Testament. Let's go to Matthew 26:57. And those having seized Jesus, are we all here? And those having seized Jesus, led him away to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled. And Peter was following him how? Peter was watching the situation from afar, even to the court of the high priest, and having entered within, he was sitting with the guards. Hey, to see the outcome. It seems that this is over. It says, now the chief priests, the elders, and all the council, there they all were. They sought false testimony against Jesus to put him to death. They wanted to kill him. But they did not find any of many false witnesses having come forward. Many, mind you. And at last two having come forward. It seems that these were more fake than the others, or they liked them more. It says and said, this fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days. And the high priest arose and said to him, do you answer nothing? What is it these men testify against you? But Jesus was silent. I was not talking, see? And the high priest answered and said to him, I put you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God. Here Jesus spoke. Jesus said to him, it is as you said. Nevertheless, I say to you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power and coming on the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest tore his clothes, saying, he has spoken blasphemy. What further need do we have of witnesses? Look, now you have heard his blasphemy. What do you think? They answered and said, he is deserving of death. Then they spit in his face and beat him with their fists, and others slapped him, saying, prophesy to us, Christ, who is the one who struck you? What a tremendous thing that was happening to him. Listen to this. Look at Peter. Verse 69. Now Peter sat outside in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. You also were with Jesus of Galilee. But he denied it before them all, saying, I do not know what you are saying. It sounds like they said, if this one was what he says he is, he would have defended himself. He would have liquidated all these people here. How are they going to slap him in the face if these people have no authority? Well then, hey, what about the senses? How were those senses going? It looked like a plastic rib, a plastic chop. It was transparent. His convictions. He walked with him for 3 years. He walked on the water. Once he said to him, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And all that he said. I have many people like that here that say, brother, this is the word, you have to carry it to the end, because this is the truth, brother. Our brother Jose Luis is right. We have to defend him. And then after 3 years, from here to heaven. Look, brother, this is the apostolate of the last hour. Have you seen him like this? But at the moment you see him out there like this and you ask him, hey, where are you? I'm with the almost grace. Don't fall for it again. Get rid of it. But you know that you have to have a balance. Oh, are you with the balance too? That is the reason why the senses, the senses, listen, after those individuals go in that direction, they eventually come to the realization that they were mistaken. For they are people whose senses are not exercised. They do not have their own exercise. So when you talk discernment, If you have exercised your senses, when you talk to someone, you find out where they are located and you don't let yourself get entangled. Isn't that right? You've noticed it yourself, you've seen it, you realize that it is not grounded. Well, look, Peter, look where this man is. That is, look at what he answers. What are you asking me if I don't know him? What are you talking about? After he had said to him, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." After he did miracles and so many things. Hey, do you know what that is? And at the moment now, I don't know it. See? 2 types of water. One sweet and one bitter. And look over there. Verse 71 says, "And when he had gone out to the gateway, another girl saw him, another blessed one, and said to those who were there, 'This fellow also was with Jesus of Nazareth.' And again he denied with an oath." With an oath. For how did they prove that in those days? Does anyone remember that? It looks like he said, "I swear on my mother." In Puerto Rico, they say for my mother if she is alive. But if she died, then they say for my mother's bones. On my mother's bones, I swear. It says with an oath. Verse 73. And a little later, those who stood by came up and said to Peter, "Surely you also are one of them, for your speech betrays you." For as Peter walked with Jesus, there were certain terminologies that he used, so they said to him, "Your way of speaking tells me that you are one of them." Now look what happened here. Look what it says. 74, then he began to curse. Oh, Father, what a condition. He began to curse. And swear. Cursing and swearing. So he was already swearing at that point by his mother, by this and by that. It says, "I don't know the man." Immediately a rooster crowed, and Peter remembered the word of Jesus who had said to him, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. So he went out and wept bitterly. Wept bitterly. Weak senses. And what Hebrews says is, "But solid food is for those who are mature, those who by use have their senses exercised in the discernment of good and evil within the church." Doctrinal. Remember, Jesus said, "This town, good is called bad, and the bad they call good." Then he said it, "Look, my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are my ways your ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my thoughts." That's why when you speak about grace, they don't match people's thoughts. I don't agree with that, they tell you. How? You are impeccable because Christ by one offering made you perfect. Sin is not in your spirit. No, brother, I am sorry, but that is not biblical. For it is biblical. All the Lord's thoughts are not your thoughts. But this town is like this. Why did Jesus keep saying, "Hey, I am the Son of God"? He proved it to Caiaphas, didn't he? He said to him, "I am the Son of the living God." For that reason alone, they crucified him. But for him to say, "I am the Son of God." Now, in the event that he were to assert, "I am the ruler of multitudes," to clarify, "I am the ruler of multitudes," the ancient scriptures express this notion, yet I assumed this physical form to make a personal appearance before you. However, he had no choice but to proclaim, "I am the Son of God, for my Father is greater than I." So, do you know why he had to do that? Let's look it up in the first letter to the Corinthians 2:7. "But we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, the hidden wisdom which God ordained before the ages for our glory, which none of the rulers of this age knew. For had they known, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory." Do you know the reason for him having to portray the role of the Trinity? For if he had not, he would not have been crucified. If not, you would not be saved, nor I. If he had discovered a principle in this, look, "I am the Lord of hosts." I looked for a body, Maria formed it, but I am not that body. I am a spirit, I am Jehovah, also called Yahweh and Elohim. And henceforth call me no more Jehovah. By putting on this body I will glorify myself. This body is Jewish. But the new body that I will receive, it will be called Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. I will no longer be called Jehovah, nor Yahweh, nor this one, nor that one. All names are finished. There is only one name. If he says that, do we kill him? No. Then we would still be lost. And as a result, he would have been lost as well. Yes, because that body was like sinful flesh. Therefore, he had to say, he that is up there is greater than I. And that which was up there was his word, his decree. And what was up there was his word, his decree. There was nothing else because heaven was empty. Look at the hymn that said, you left your throne and crown for me. When you came to Bethlehem to be born, you remember, there you are. He left his throne. For if he left the throne, then it was empty. However, he had to communicate using such language, leading to confusion regarding the term Trinity. And confused. And they are still confused. But we do understand, that is why Paul wrote, that Jehovah is finished. Now it is Jesus Christ, the God over all things. If it had not been so, he would not have been crucified. Do you dare to kill God? That was the problem. That's why Paul had problems with the Jews, because he told the Jews he is not the Son, that is God. They stoned him. If he had said that Jehovah had a son, the Jews would have told him, Paul, let him have 2 or 3, no problem. But if you tell us that he is God, we do not believe it, for he whom you crucified is your God. They couldn't stand that, and so they stoned him. So I am going to finish by telling you to have your senses exercised, be mature, use discernment, do not be disturbed by the problems of daily living, do not make hasty decisions. God does not walk that way. Oh, God told me. Oh, well, let's check it out. I felt. Well, what you felt, well, relax, put it here on the table, and with that you can check if what you felt is true. But don't be agitated. Calm down, rest, calm down. Don't make quick decisions. Remember that the flesh, look in your carnal space. There come many darts. Your mind has room for all kinds of darts. And you can swear by my mother. And then the next day say, I made a mistake. Well, stop that. Do you understand me? Imitate me a little bit. Yes, that can be said. Calm down. Just look. How many things have not been said to me in the time I have been here? Look, this happened, that happened. Well, that's flesh, forget it, but don't get agitated with what they will say, with what they say. Don't get agitated with the news that appears in the newspapers. With the bank, it's that the job opportunities are bad. Look, that guy lost his job, this and that are going to end. And you hear a lot of voices. There are so many voices you hear, imagine that. Then you're going to get upset. And then you have to ask for forgiveness. Well, so that you don't have to be like that. Forgive me that I got upset, that I wrote and then I didn't, that this and that. Calm down and take it easy. With senses exercised, exercise them. Say, I do not receive. I take every thought captive to obedience to Christ. I do not receive. What is of God abides. What is of God will be clear. Exercise the senses. Look. A detail. You know that I am one of those who, if I am going to ask for forgiveness, I ask for it right away. Don't you know that? How many believe that I dare to apologize to anyone in case I am wrong, even to the congregation itself? I said it like this, and like this. But I was wrong. Oh, and I'm not going to give explanations either. It's just that I made a mistake because of this and that. I went to bed late. No, I made a mistake and that's it. Now, look, that since I have been here, ministering, for I have not had to go to anyone to ask for forgiveness. Have you noticed that Look, I'm sorry, did I tell the church this? Until now. For these issues, thanks to the Word, which has exercised my senses, when something happens out there, well, look, I am calm here. I don't even have to talk about it. I am calm. We better look in Romans. As different situations happen around that, the family such is that this happened. Well, look, so far, I declare myself more than conqueror. I am more than conqueror, and in this other more than conqueror, in everything I declare myself thus. In other words, what is the right thing to do here? Nothing. Everything is already done. It is the word that sustains us. Still, I'd like to go apologize to someone. So far, I haven't had to pick up the phone. I do not aim to convince or make others believe in me. Please understand, what they said is untrue. I have to pass the test with joy, even in the face of negative remarks directed towards me. And someone can tell me, Pastor, look, so-and-so was cheated, and so-and-so was told this about you, so-and-so never came back because of it. The Lord tells me, are you going to defend yourself now? I say no. What lessons did I impart to you? I'm the one pleading your case, calm, quiet. I don't call anyone. I don't use the phone. I don't use the phone at all. I better allow the other person to be fooled for a little while. If he is chosen and is sincere, he is coming back. And if he does not return, God does not want him by my side. Senses exercised. Say it with me, I have exercised my senses. This pays and pays well. I don't let myself be moved by anything that comes against me. If the devil himself rises up with all flesh, with all concupiscence, if he rises up against me. So see all those thoughts traveling there, for here I took captive every thought to the obedience of Christ. And after you are there firmly, there is no one who can come against you. No, because the ultimate would be death, and you are not afraid of death. The last, what can it be? Death. And you may say, well, what's the matter with you? Oh, death, where is your sting? That's right. Abba, Father, glory to the Lord. We're going to stand.